Hello, my name is Sam, and this is the beginning of a new vlog series I've started. Over the summer, I've been vlogging book reviews and things related to the books, so if that sounds like your cup of tea, the link to my other channel is up here, or maybe here. I still don't know how YouTube works. For the past year and a half or so, I've been in the process of relocating from the US to Scotland, and I've decided, since we're getting a little closer to that, to start documenting my journey. Why Scotland, you're probably wondering? This is the Scottish flag, in case you don't know. Well, that's what the video today is about. I'm going to tell you a little story about why I went to Scotland originally, how I fell in love with it, and why I want to go back. So, since I was probably in middle school, I've always wanted to study abroad. It sounded like the coolest thing to me. It seems like it's a thing every student should be required to do. I spent a good portion of my overnight orientation for my freshman year of college just sitting outside flipping through the study abroad catalog, just shaking with excitement even though I had made no application. I didn't even know where I was going to go, but just the prospect of that was so exhilarating to me. In my freshman year of college, I applied for this, I think it was 2 week long summer class in Ireland, which I was so excited for, but because of finances and a few other outside factors, I had to cancel that. But looking back, I think that was for the best. I was only a year into college. I don't think I was totally ready for that, as excited as I was. But finally, the summer after my sophomore year of college, I decided to finally do it and go for a full semester. So I got the catalog again, looked online. It's been hours at a time deciding where to go. I considered going to New Zealand for a while. That was my top choice for a while. And I do still want to visit there eventually because it looks beautiful. But eventually I happened on Scotland, and people kept asking me why Scotland, and I honestly have no idea. I had been to the UK before and loved it. I had been to Ireland before and thought it was beautiful. So, but I'd never been to Scotland before, and I wanted to go someplace that was new to me, but it was also accessible, I guess. There was no language barrier, and since I had been to the UK before, it was sort of familiar to me. So my family and I spent pretty much that whole summer and my entire first semester of my junior year of college preparing for that. I still got good grades, if you're wondering. But so that was the most excited I had ever been in my life. Like, Christmas that year meant very little to me compared to this. So finally, on New Year's Day 2018, I had to check a few times when I first saw it to see if it was a typo, but it was actually New Year's Day. We drove into Newark Airport, and I said goodbye to my family, and later that night I got on the plane and headed to Iceland because there are no direct flights from the US to Scotland, I found out. The flight wasn't as smooth as I thought it was going to be. I had only done an overnight flight 2 or 3 times before. I might be wrong, I don't know. But I expected to have a window seat. I'd take melatonin, just knock me out. But the melatonin did absolutely nothing, and I was sat next to a crying baby, but luckily they moved me. But overall, it was a pretty good flight. The next day, I flew into the Reykjavik airport, and there was a short delay, so I had to rush to my flight to Glasgow, but I made it, and just an hour later, I was in Scotland. I met the resident director of the program I was using. I used ISA, by the way, International Studies Abroad. So if you're considering studying abroad, I highly recommend you use them if they're supported by your school. I met the other American students who were in the program, one of which actually went to my school back in the States, whom I had never met before. So that was really cool. And the other one didn't go to my school, but lived like a block away and went to a school that was my top choice for a while. So it was a really weird, wonderful, small world. Going there, I didn't really know what to expect. I suspected that I would enjoy it, because I've always loved to travel. Studying abroad was my dream, and I've always had an interest in Britain and Ireland. but I never expected to fall in love with the country, and especially its people, in the way that I did. I met some great friends who I'm going to know for the rest of my life, and this experience for me, was life changing. I know that sounds like an exaggeration because I'd hear people talk about when they studied abroad and they say, like, oh, it was life changing, it was great to get home, but I'll always remember that experience. But for me and the other people in my program, I feel like it was different. I don't know if it was something about Scotland, maybe it was just us, just me, but I feel like it did change my life because just a couple months into the program, I was already getting preemptively sad about going home. Not that I don't love my home, I love my hometown, I love my parents, and I did miss them. I miss my family, but it was, I knew it would be very hard to leave Scotland. I really felt like I belonged here. Again, not that I didn't in the States, but Scotland just feels like a perfect fit to me. So even though I still had plenty of time left, I almost half a year. It was I just knew the day I would have to leave would be terrible, even though I knew it would have to happen. So I started looking into ways of relocating to Scotland permanently. Ideally Glasgow, but I know they were pretty expensive. So really just anywhere in Scotland would have been fine with me. And we would have meetings with the resident director there, Mike, who is an American who he and his family have lived there for 15 years, and told me how wonderful it was. He might have been a factor in convincing me to move there permanently. So, Mike, if you're watching this, thank you so much. And I told him that I wanted to teach. I was an education major in college. I was a dual writing and education major, but my school restructured their education system in a way that interfered with my schedule and didn't really work for me. So I decided to just do writing and look for routes into education in college because I do want to teach. And Mike told me about a possible route into the UK, which is called a postgraduate degree in education, PGDE in Scotland, PGCE in the rest of the UK, postgraduate certificate in education. So what this is a 1 year teacher certification program specifically for postgraduates or grad students, as we'd call them in the US. They didn't seem to use that term in the UK. But so once you complete the program, it takes a little over a year, almost 2 years in Scotland, and about a year in the UK, or the rest of the UK, and Ireland, I believe. But once you're finished, you're certified as a teacher, and you can teach anywhere in the UK. If you're certified in Scotland, if you're certified in England, you need to go through a few additional hoops to teach in Scotland. It's a little complicated, and I don't want to bore you with it. So this program was exactly what I was looking for. So Mike and I had a few more meetings where he gave me some more information about the program and also some good interview tips because I would really need to ace an interview to get in. Again, thank you so much for telling me about this, Mike. I don't know if I would have found this without you. Of the 6 people in our ISA group, including me, 3, so half of us, are planning on moving back to Scotland permanently. And again, I don't know if that says something about Scotland or just us as individuals, but whatever it says a lot. So eventually the day came at the end of the semester to go back to the US, and it was about as hard as I thought it would be. I honestly cried the night before, but going back, I did have this newfound optimism, which sounds horrible, right? Because I mean, I was going back home, and I was glad to have optimism, but I really did because I knew how to go back, and I knew I would go back. So basically, that's where I am now. I've been in this extended research period since I got back in June of 2018, last June, and there have been a few hiccups on the way. a few factors have come up like cost and visas and uh, and just living in the UK right now, given what's going on with Brexit. I also considered applying to schools in England and moving over there first, then transferring over to Scotland after I get certified, even though, like I said, there are a few extra steps I'd have to go to qualify for the Scottish system. But the schools in England were a little bit less expensive than the ones in Scotland. I do love England too. But now, having done more research, it looks like I am going to try to apply directly to Scottish schools and move over there. I'm aiming, my top choices for schools are in Glasgow, as that's where I stayed, and it just became like one of my favorite cities. But really, anywhere in Scotland, I traveled a lot. And there were a lot of places there I haven't traveled to that I would love to explore. But really, anywhere in the country is fine with me. I've emailed schools over there, and we've talked about things like visas. They checked my transcripts, and all of which has been very encouraging. So that was a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. So I've now been planning this for over a year, and it's July at the time I'm taping this, mid-July, and the applications for the 2020 academic year open up in September, so just about 2 months from now. It feels kind of weird that it's actually getting this close, because up until now I've been in this sort of just stagnant period of doing the research, and the research has been totally constructive. Don't get me wrong, it's completely necessary for a step like this. I mean, if you're going to move to another country, I think you need all the time in the world to prepare. But after a while, it gets to a point where you think you're just gonna keep doing this. You don't know if it's really gonna happen. But I'm going to begin preparing my applications, and I'll send them off, and after that's just a matter of waiting. Hopefully I'll be granted an interview, then which I'll probably pop over there for a few days through the interview, but some of them can do it via Skype, which is great. In the meantime, I've gotten a job online teaching English as a second language to students in China, which I will be able to keep when I move over there because I can work from anywhere, which is great. And I've added it up, and looks like that's going to cover half the tuition costs for the schools, which was great. And also, pretty much every school in the UK and Ireland, and a lot of schools around the world, take FAFSA. So if you're considering something like this, that's a really important tip. So that pretty much brings us up to date. I'm so excited, nervous, and ready to begin this next chapter of my life. And I look forward to sharing it with all of you. If you have questions, you can hit me up on Twitter. I am at MaxCatBrig, Sam Caulfield, or on Instagram, Adventures in Glasgow. That was the handle I picked before I went over, and I haven't changed it since, nor would I want to. If you're a book lover like me, you can check out my other channel, either down there or up there. To the other people planning on taking this step, including the people I've had the pleasure of meeting, I wish you all the luck in the world. So there are going to be a lot more vlogs as I move further in this process. So if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And I look forward to sharing the next chapter with you. Bye.